Welcome back. In case you missed it, MSDNC's absolutely miserable Joy Reid wasn't thrilled about the massive turnout of Trump supporters in the deep blue Bronx last week. Reid, who's notorious for her disdain of black conservatives, didn't hold back following the Trump rally and did her best to undermine those who showed up.
Trump floated Florida Congressman Byron Donalds as a potential vice presidential pick. Donalds, who backed Trump's lie that Biden authorized the feds to take him out, that guy, the one black guy that Republicans love to roll out as fake proof that black people, the blacks, are just MAGA. They're MAGA. It's a joke, and just as credible as when they pretended they were going to make that guy Speaker of the House, because they weren't going to do that either.
Does anyone still take this woman seriously? I'm genuinely curious. But what's clear to me is that it bothers Democrats like Joy that there are actually people out there who have minds of their own and refuse to be told how to think and vote. Despite what the lamestream media tells you, we are a nation of independent thinkers who can decide on our own what's best for ourselves and our country. Clearly, the talking heads are just upset because they know their influence is whittling away. Joining us now to discuss, director at MRC-TV, Eric Scheiner. Eric, thanks so much for being back with us. Joy Reid more or less referred to Congressman Byron Donalds as the prop black guy that MAGA loves to deploy when it behooves them. But to me, this is really reminiscent of if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So I guess she didn't really learn anything from that epic failure. But what are your thoughts on her latest comments here?
Well, this is what she does. Everything's racist to Joy Reid. So, she always, it's the token black Republican. It's Byron. Or it's Senator Tim Scott. She's called him a token Republican. Mm-hmm. She's gone after Justice Clarence Thomas, calling him Uncle Clarence and referring to Uncle Tom's Cabin. So she has nothing but disdain. She believes that people, if you are a certain skin color, then you need to vote a certain way. That's clearly a racist thought, but it's clearly the thought that comes from Joy Reid. And it was funny because, Byron Donalds actually kind of came back at her and he's like, yeah, she says I'm being used. I think maybe MSNBC is using her to push a racist agenda,
Yeah, no, I loved his response. I thought that it was perfect. And yeah, it's just ironic that, the people who cry the most about racism are actually the most racist. Time and time again, we've seen it so many times. This is just the latest example. Hopefully BuzzFeed, the iconic publishers of the fake Hillary Clinton-funded Russia dossier, can start producing some real news. Now that Vivek Ramaswamy has purchased stake in the company, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this, Eric. Is BuzzFeed, even still relevant? Have they just dropped off the face of the earth? And can they be fixed now that Vivek has taken over here?
Well, it's going to be a bit of a fight. I mean, Vivek wants them to change. He's written a letter to the board. So first of all, how do you get BuzzFeed to improve? Mm-hmm. First of all, their stocks improved when news leaked out that Vivek Ramaswamy was buying up the stock. All of a sudden, the stock soars up 25%. So that's an interesting feature to note as well. So he's written a letter to the board, and he's saying, look, you got to have different voices. And don't forget, BuzzFeed owns a lot. They own the Huffington Post as well. Mm-hmm. He's like, you got to have more diverse voices, and we got to issue an apology for our journalistic malpractices of the past. And I'm assuming he's referencing the Russian dossier that you talked about earlier that came from the Hillary Clinton campaign. Mm-hmm. So far, the board's been resistant to it. They don't want to do it. I think they've said, well, that's not really what we're about, and we'll talk with Vivek about it. But, if he's going to be an activist investor, this is a way to do it. This is a way to change the system. It's to say, look, it's being, look at the expose we saw on PBS, where all of their editors are members of the Democratic Party. They don't have any representation from the Republican Party. Vivek is simply saying, have some diverse voices here. And you can increase your audience. This can be saved. The platform is okay. Mm-hmm. It's just you've catered yourself into a crater.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It certainly is a step in the right direction, and I think America definitely needs more reliable conservative news sources. So I think Vivek needs to pull a Musk here and fire most of the company and then start rebuilding. That would certainly get things back in order here. But of course, it's not just the media that needs to be rebuilt from the ground up as well. There is Hollywood, as we all know, which is suffering massively, actually. In years past, Memorial Day weekend used to be one of the biggest at the box office, as we know, but it looks like this time around it was a huge bust. Movie ticket sales were the worst they've actually been in nearly 3 decades. Eric, what are your thoughts on this? What does this tell us about the current state? Are people just totally over Hollywood now?
I think Hollywood's just not producing. Are they totally over it? No, I think they're just waiting for something that they actually want to see. There's another superhero movie coming out soon that has a lot of big expectations, and people are saying that can save it. But putting out, movies with androgynous leads or messaging, or in fact, there's a recent article by the AP. There's a study that there's not enough movies that are addressing climate change as a reality. And it needs to be, addressed, and it needs to be a Kickstarter for conversations. If Hollywood goes in that direction, into that preachy direction, that is why it's going to tank. Right now, that's, you have these fantasy worlds where these superheroes live, where I guess there's no climate change and they don't have to be preachy. Those are the ones that people are kind of looking at, although we can say some of those movies in the past have been a little preachy. But, Hollywood just isn't making movies that people want to see. Yeah. But here's the bad news. The study shows that on streaming platforms, those productions, they're making sure people get the climate change message. So.
Of course they are.
It's prevalent there. It's more prevalent there, according to their study.
Yeah.